friends, and welcome back to another episode of Go Ask Alice, the show where we jump down random internet rabbit holes and bring you wonderful factoids from our adventures in Wiki Wonderland. I'm Drew, and I'm accident prone. With me is...
I'm Lindsay, and apparently my voice recording is always several decibels higher than everybody else's.
Several, hundreds of decibels higher. And I'm Sarah, and I am in a constant state of existential crisis.
This is the show. This is the show where we take out our existential dread by wandering around Wikipedia. So every week we start out on the same randomly chosen page, and we just click around until we find something that we deem metrically interesting. Something is interesting if we find that we are reading about 2 paragraphs or more, and then we are beholden to teach or share our findings to each other and to you. This week, we started out with Reese Witherspoon. I have no idea how far I have traveled because, once again, I deleted my browsers. But I ended up... I just want to say that... I just wanted to bring to your attention along the way, you're familiar with the Rat Pack, right? Like the famous Rat Pack kind of...
Like the gangsters in LA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So did you know that there's also the Frat Pack and the Brat Pack?
No. What's the Frat Pack? Is this just some college guys?
It was the era of movies that all had Owen Wilson and... fucking hell, just all of those broy... Yes! Yeah, just all
Wedding
of
Crashers.
those... Pretty much every movie had all of them in it. And that was the Frat Pack. And then there was I can't remember who was in the Brat Pack. But I passed that along the way and I was like, what the fuck?
What the fuck is this?
Traveling.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So
where did you... Our question?
Ooh.
Oh,
So
do we want to start with our question? Fuck.
I reckon we should say where we landed. So
okay.
Yeah.
We started on Reese Witherspoon. Where did you end up, Lindsay, after your Rat Pack detour?
I landed on the history of Whac-a-Mole.
Only you would land on the history of Whac-a-Mole. And Drew, where did you end up?
I ended up on AI Takeover.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It feels relevant.
Right?
Yeah.
And I ended up on the history of jack-o'-lanterns.
There you go.
Oh, I can't wait. So
Little
actually,
spooky.
before we even start, I have a user submitted rabbit hole.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so one of our listeners ended up, which I think sadly triumphs over all of our suggestions. They landed on the wiki article for a toast sandwich.
Toast sandwich, I love it.
So in Britain, apparently, you take a piece of toast and you put it between 2 slices of bread and you, quote, add salt and pepper to taste.
Ew. Wait, so you're just jamming 3 pieces of bread in your mouth?
Yeah.
Why? That can't be enjoyable.
And another bonus is that for some reason I have now ended up following a bunch of Sonic fans on Twitter. And with the new release of the second Sonic movie, there's been a lot of Knuckles trivia. Knuckles the Echidna. And did you know that Knuckles the Echidna was originally based off of...
Are you saying the Echidna?
Oh my God, what do you say?
The Echidna?
The Echidna, yes.
Stop! Wait, okay, other question. How do you say archipelago?
Archipelago?
Fuck this. No, oh my God, it's archipelago.
No, it is not.
I said it like that in middle school and no one stopped me.
Oh. While I was shopping in the Husky section.
This world is going to shit.
Oh.
Okay, well...
What did you find out about Knuckles the Echidna?
Knuckles the Echidna was originally created after the Rastafarian flag.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, and he was supposed to have a Jamaican accent. And then, according to this article, he is now of Mesoamerican descent.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Do you guys have echidnas? You have porcupines in America, don't you?
I don't think we have echidnas.
I'm
I don't know
pretty
if
sure
we
an
have
echidna
echidnas.
is a native animal to Australia.
Do we have echidnas? Oh, how do you spell echidna? I wouldn't know. Do we have echidnas
Echidnas.
in America? Clicky clack.
Clickety clack. Don't talk back.
Spiny anteaters. I don't know. I can't find out immediately. Oh, echidnas live in Australia and New Guinea. So no, we don't.
No, we do not.
And not
They're a
in Jamaica
monotreme.
either.
And
Where did these guys get this idea from? They were probably high.
holy shit, they descend from the platypus.
Yeah. And I think the echidna and the porcupine are examples of like the convergent evolution on two different continents of something adapting very similarly to fight off different types of prey that try to bite it.
Oh, that is really cool.
Yeah, they're pretty cute.
Damn. Wow, I've learned so much before the show. Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly. So our question of the week is, what random hobby did you pick up in lockdown? Because I, in Australia, am forced back into lockdown, which is okay, but I am picking up some random weird hobbies. So did you guys get any last year?
I did.
Yes. Did you, Drew? Sorry.
Yes, I did. I started collecting records.
Oh, that's a cool hobby.
I had a record player for a while, and I was like, I had a few records, but then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and collect a bunch of records and, try and... Lockdown wasn't really lockdown for us, so I was still able to go to like a record store with a mask on and all that and get some records, but, that's my little hobby.
That's awesome.
Do
you have a favorite one that you've gotten in the last year?
I have an old Beatles album. It's their second album, and I really, really like it because it's kind of a little crusty. It's kind of got a little bit of age to it, and so it's not just like a fresh press of it. It's like it actually has some age, and it's got a little bit like a little character. I could have seen people, way back when listening to it and being like, Beatles, this is great.
This slaps.
And that's exactly what Drew does in his apartment.
Yeah.
Just clicking.
Clickety clack.
Don't talk
Damn
back.
I always hated when grown-ups would snap along to songs. I always thought that was like so cringe.
Drew is a real grown-up.
I'm a real grown-up now. I snap along to songs.
I hate it.
And what did you pick up, Lindsay?
So before our original lockdown, I had discovered that there is like an auction site on Goodwill items. So it's...
Oh my god, I need it.
Yeah. It's basically just like a cheap auction site. Like it's like a worse eBay.
Goodwill.
Yeah, worse Goodwill. So I was just browsing endlessly along this site, and for some reason I couldn't stop myself from bidding constantly on lamps. Which was stupid because all of my apartment had like ceiling light. Like I didn't need lamps, but I just kept buying lamps. And now I think I won, I don't know how many I bid on, but I won about 3. And then during lockdown I moved, and it turns out that my living room has no overhead lighting. So I got to use all my lamps in my living room.
Oh my god.
But of course the hilarious the hilarious bit is that I don't know how to fucking buy lampshades, so they're just lamps without lampshades. At this point, I just don't care. So, just really, just as pure lamp as possible.
Just pure lamp.
It's pure lamp in here.
I love lamp.
I love lamp. There you go.
Well, yeah. What about you, Sarah?
That's amazing. So in the very big lockdown last year, I started like excessively sewing shit.
Oh.
Because I was running away from my problems, e.g. my PhD thesis, and I made like so many clothing items for myself, and they're all beautiful and fancy, so I haven't worn a single one because I haven't left the apartment.
Awesome! Oh my God.
That was very
I want to
fun.
see pictures.
Oh, I can show you. They're one of them is like a disco jumpsuit. Very 70s. And then I also made my dog lots of cute little outfits.
Oh my God, Sarah, you are always so cool.
No, I am the opposite of cool.
That is so cool.
But just before this most recent lockdown, I went to the plant, like a nursery store, and I bought a heap of like pretty plants for our balcony, and they had these little like dying little pots for 50 cents. No idea what was in them because they were basically dead. So I rescued 4 of these dead plants, and I'm trying to bring them back to life. And so far they are blossoming. So that's what I'm doing now.
Oh, I love that. That's such a satisfaction. Wait,
right,
can you
so
guys...
shall we dive into the history of whack-a-moles?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. So I think the best place to start is the title of this game in Japanese is Mogura Taiji. And the reason that that's important is because the literal translation is mole extermination. That was very intense.
Imagine if that was the sign at the arcade. Mole extermination.
What I actually... So I just want to... There are a few things about this I find actually very interesting. And the first one is when it was invented. So if you guys had to take a guess when Whac-a-Mole was invented, when would you guess?
I would probably like lowball. No, not lowball, highball. I would some ball I would throw would be like maybe like 1600s.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe they had a lot of crops and moles were big issues.
I like that. Okay. So Sarah's guess is 1600s as the highest.
As the highest. I'm thinking like as a game, I'm thinking like 1920s.
1920s. Oh my God. So that is a huge freaking difference. Okay. I think before I did any of this research, I think I similarly would have guessed like ancient. I might have guessed even like older than Sarah's guess. Because the concept is so easy, just hitting things as they pop up. Cats do it all the time, So, I thought it would have been some kind of old game that was just passed around. It was actually invented in 1974.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the vintage movies that I watch have a whack-a-mole in the arcade. Around the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, so 1974 is like the official date. And so what makes this story so interesting is that it was actually very hard to put this story together, like to do the research. The Wikipedia article alone is very sparse. So like I told you guys before we started recording, I ended up like adding an entire paragraph because of the other research that I had done to the Wikipedia page. But
doing the Lord's work, Lindsay.
I mean, Wikipedia gives us all our content. Yeah, so that someday somebody else procrastinating will learn what I learned. But what's also so interesting is that because it's so ubiquitous, everybody claims a stake in the story. Like everybody claims, oh, we were the first to do blah, blah, blah relating to Whac-a-Mole. But it was actually extremely hard to nail down who invented the Whac-a-Mole. And
so was it invented in Japan because of the Japanese translation?
Oh, crap. I totally gave that away. Yeah.
No, I'm a real good detective.
You are? Oh, my God.
That surprises me. I thought it would have been an American thing for sure.
Yeah. You know, I honestly wasn't sure where I would have guessed it was from, but I was surprised to learn it was Japanese. I'm sure that you've all heard of Bandai Namco.
Yes.
Yeah. So Bandai bought it, but I don't think that so the company that invented it is Togo, Togo, but Bandai ends up buying it from them. But even companies such as Mattel, like Barbie is Mattel, which I'll get to later, even they have a stake in it. But actually there are a group of Americans who do take credit for inventing it, but you have to be careful because they take the credit for designing the part of the game that has the air pressure powered sort of pistons.
Oh.
So when you hit
engineering of it.
Yeah. And because of that, they take credit for inventing the game. But if you want to ask who came up with the concept and who developed everything up to that point where it could be improved, that all happened in Japan. So to me, it's not credit, these Americans who are taking credit for it. So maybe that's a hot take, because you could argue the game wouldn't be as playable in the same way, because it was slightly more, I guess, rough maybe in the original few years. But to me, that's like, okay, you didn't really come up with the idea, so you can't claim that you invented it. But maybe that's a gray area.
Feels like that happens a lot though with like Western culture that takes ideas from either indigenous or European or Asian influence and passes it on as their own.
That's kind of my take is like, oh, this classic story.
Yeah.
But I think what was sad was that it really took a lot of digging. So when I say digging, I mean what I actually did was I went to the Wikipedia sources and then went to those websites and had those websites translated from Japanese into English. But a lot of the time, my main sources were from like the Wayback Machine, like archived internet sources and internet blogs that were like interviews done in Japanese that I had to be translated. So I really had to dig for this information, which is shocking. It's like sad that something that was invented so recently, 1974, doesn't really have very good documentation. And it's almost like one of those things that I wonder if it's so hard to nail down because it's so ubiquitous, like almost like its success has the opposite effect. You know, it's such a classic game that nobody can agree on where it actually started.
So is the Whac-a-Mole game, so if you go to an arcade and you see the Whac-a-Mole, the branding, is that like a franchise? Does someone make money off it? Or is it not trademarked and then anyone can have a Whack-a thing?
That's a fantastic...
In Australia, fun fact, we have Whack-a Crocodile, and it's the crocodiles that move in and out that you've got to hit.
I was about to bring that up, actually. So that is... you know what? Let me tell you the whole story, but I will answer your question directly, which is that it was kind of this case of co-development of like different companies developing their own sort of take on it. It's not really clear to me who has the rights, but there's no Whac-a-Mole company. Right. I'm pretty sure... I don't know if Bandai still owns it, especially because Bandai Namco is now like a thing. I don't know exactly who has ownership over the Whac-a-Mole idea, but I know that the Americans... So I guess it depends how you ask the question, because the Americans who created that sort of like piston, the air pressurized aspect of it, do have a trademarked company, or do have they're the ones who coined the term Whac-a-Mole, because like I said, in Japanese, it's like this mole extermination sort of name. So they have a different name for it, but maybe I should just start at the very beginning.
Yes, on an
Yeah, in 1974, a man by the name of Kazuo Yamada was knew the way that he tells the story, it's not very clear to me if he was the designer, but some designer came up with 10 sketches at the Togo company, 10 sketches for a game, and wasn't really sure of the success of any of them, and had asked the president, like, do you think we could commercialize any of these? And the hope with all of his sketches was that there would be some element of exercise or like physical involvement in a game, because he wanted to create a stress relieving game. And
that makes so much sense.
Yeah, that was really like the motivation underneath all of it.
That's awesome.
So
that's kind of like you go to those racket rooms now to let out all of your anger. You could just go Whac-a-Mole.
Yeah. So some of the 10 ideas that he came up with and pitched to the president of the company were a child pulling a lion's tail instead of a Whac-a-Mole, or stepping on crocodiles to cross a river. But of his sketches, just his like pencil sketches on a piece of paper, there was a child kneeling on the floor and hitting moles that were coming up through the floor. And the president of the company like laughed out loud when he saw that picture. So everybody was like, oh, this is the one.
I wonder why that made him laugh so much.
So this is definitely Google Translate, like, you know, having a weird translation, but he said, I had a laugh and thought it was interesting to hit. So, I don't know. Maybe he just thought the action of it that we find so funny, like, or fun, appealing about the game, like, is, you know, maybe what was so funny about it.
Interesting to hit.
Interesting to hit.
He wants to whack it.
So the early development, I guess, of the game itself was that the first like prototype was completely U-shaped. So to play it, you would stand in the middle of it and you would hit all around you. Well, I guess not behind you, but you would hit moles that would pop up left and right. And he put it on the first floor of the Togo company so that employees coming in or out could decide, you know, if they wanted to play or give it a try. And like nobody played it.
Oh, I would have.
Yeah, it was not popular. And I guess in this same interview, they were talking through kind of different iterations or considerations that they made. So I guess one of the questions is like, what's the setting of the moles? And so they were saying if it was brown with craters, like it would look too dirty. People wouldn't want to play this dirty game. If the moles look too real, it's not cute anymore. It's just violent. So nobody would want to play. So I just thought it was kind of cool that these were sort of the considerations that they went through. And eventually the first prototype that was actually successful among the employees in the Togo company had this yellow exterior and a green turf. And I guess the moles were probably a little bit cuter than real moles. And just incrementally, little by little, it gained popularity until many employees were like having fun with it and playing it. And then it was time to hit the market.
Oh, baby.
That was lovely. That was lovely.
I hated it. But I wrote it, but then in my script I capitalized hit, so I
hit. Gotta use it.
Gotta say it. But actually when it hit the market in about 1976, so it had like 2 years of prototyping, it still had this semicircular shape, this like U shape, but the U shape was tricky for children to do because they've got these little bodies, so they would have to like step, you know, like turn themselves around, like swivel, you know. So little kids had a really hard time playing the game. Spin around. So they had some trouble with it, so they instead made the game just like a semicircle and a slope that we're familiar with now. It doesn't have that much of a U shape, but that's at least why the game does have a semicircle. I mean, I know a lot of them I think are squares, like just rectangular. I think especially the crocodile game where they're coming out.
Yeah,
like you were talking about
that's
earlier,
definitely just a big rectangle.
Yeah, it looks like a dangerous piano.
Yes, exactly.
So it's had like a little bit of improvements, I think, since then, but at least to me, I for some reason do have in my head that some of them could be semicircular. So I thought that was interesting that it was like a movement away from an original just like U shape that you would step into. I also think I would hate it if it was U-shaped because that sounds like a lot of ab work. Anyway, so it's not until 1976 that it had been fully developed, and they started to sell them, like the actual systems, in 1977. And I was really interested to know that they sold for about 2,600 yen. And so I converted yen to US dollars. So in 1977, this was about 10 US dollars.
Wow, that's cheap.
Today, yeah. Even when you consider the fact that it was like 50 years ago, I guess, by now. Wow. 50-ish, 40 or 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's about $45 today.
Wow, that's a bargain. Wow.
Yes. Yes. So these systems were being sold pretty cheap. And they still kind of, even in that early stage, had a few issues with the materials, because apparently, especially like the sort of lever before like the air piston sort of thing was developed, they were made out of plastic, and so easily they would break because you're hitting it as hard as you can. Yeah. But also the mallets. So the mallets also were like constantly breaking. So there was still room for improvement, and they had debuted at this kind of, I don't know if there's just like a game convention sort of a thing. They debuted in the United States at this game convention, and that's where the Americans picked it up in 1976, coined the term Whac-a-Mole, made a bunch of improvements to it. And at the time, like, I think that Bandai didn't really care, because they were saying that they were focusing a little bit more on electronic-centered games. So this was 4 years before Pac-Man would make its debut from Bandai. Mm-hmm. So I think that they didn't really know exactly how popular it was going to be, because this is kind of just what I'm gleaning from the story that I read, or I guess all of the different sources that I'm pulling together, is that they kind of let go, I guess, of the Whac-a-Mole idea or pursuit until they had seen just like a ton of Whac-a-Mole sort of things popping up in their own arcades. And they're like, oh my God, this has like gotten really popular. People really love this. And I think that started to build this appreciation for the nice, healthy mix of arcade games we see today. You've got like a range of physical games versus like purely electronic games. If you think of those racing games that you sit in, or those hunting games that you shoot in, Whac-a-Mole games that you physically hit, you know, the whole spectrum. Then you've got like completely electronic games. But yes, the Crocodile Head game, to me, was a great example of this sort of like free-for-all when it came to the development of Whac-a-Mole, which was this sort of like, nobody's really owning this. Nobody's really confident that this is going to make a ton of money. So everybody's just developing their own versions. And the Crocodile one was one that really took off. Also, interestingly, when Japan realized how popular it was, they developed another version called Sweet Licks.
What does that translate to?
Well, I think licks is a pun on the, like, you know, literally licking, but also hitting.
Oh,
like
yeah, I can see that, someone. Yeah.
But it was based on cakes and pastries. And I shit you not, they did this so that the game would be more appealing to women.
Oh, for God's sake. If I saw like the crocodile one and a cake one in the arcade, I would go for the crocodiles.
Absolutely. I would
so much way more fun.
I'm a vegetarian too.
We're the worst.
But you know, regardless, Sweet Licks became kind of the Japanese version. But what's interesting or noteworthy, I guess, about Sweet Licks is the fact that this was the first arcade game to include an LCD monitor that kept track of your score.
Oh, so high tech.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, just I mean, like I immediately think of like skee ball or something like that, where it's like that your score automatically updates. Sweet Licks was the first game to actually do that. But yeah, what's also kind of cool about it is that it seems that the one with the crocodile heads that had been developed was a little bit more complicated, because it would give you a point if you hit them, but if you did not hit them, it was as if the alligator bit you and you lost a point.
Oh,
so
tricky.
I guess this is also where it's sort of I guess like point taking, where we start to kind of develop this idea of gaining and losing points, and it being a little bit more complex and complicated than just hitting it, but also like having this LCD monitor to keep track of the scores. So it's just like really the dawn of video games, but also kind of arcade games that are a little bit more complex.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But that's the history that I have found so far. And now when we look to the future of Whac-a-Mole, the paragraph that I ended up adding to the Whac-a-Mole page is about the company Mattel. I had given you some foreshadowing earlier that Mattel even has a stake in the claim. So they claim that Barbie Mattel company claims that they were the first ones to make it into a tabletop game. So in 2009, they commercialized the Whac-a-Mole game, so it left the arcade and was into the home, I guess. Mm-hmm. And people could own their own version of Whac-a-Mole. But as of an article in 2021, February 1st, 2021, there is a Whac-a-Mole game show in the works to find the Whac-a-Mole champion. And this is being led by Mattel.
Oh.
So it's Mattel and the producer of America's Got Talent are coming together to make a Whac-a-Mole champion game show. And I believe that instead of just playing the game, there's also like races and obstacle courses. And apparently, according to this article, a surprise twist that will shock both the audience and the people playing.
Ooh, it sounds like something I would have watched.
I have no idea.
When I was little.
I was literally about to say I'm not going to but hey, no press is bad press, so at least we're mentioning it on the show, and it cancels out the fact that I will never watch it. But yeah, that is the I don't know, to me it's like kind of almost a I just thought that the whole thing was so strange in the way that it was so modern, so underwhelming. Nobody had really any faith in it. And it's not even like this clear timeline. It's like everybody just grabbed the concept and did their own weird thing with it. And now everybody claims that they own it because everybody took a weird take on it. So it's just really not a clear-cut history despite being so modern. But that, now you know everything I know about Whac-a-Mole.
What was the
weirdest
take that you found on it? Would it be the cake one?
Yeah, I think another one that I liked pretty well was a UFO one.
Oh,
I like that.
That's really cool. Like,
actually, yeah.
Would you like hit them out of the sky?
I don't know. I couldn't find any pictures very easily of them. But I have to say that another favorite, now that I'm really thinking about it, is that when I went to the Japanese Wikipedia article. So I don't know if people know this, but if you go to a wiki article in different languages, you get a different article. It's not that the same article is translated. It's that this is like a different article that's been written. So I wanted to see what the Japanese entry actually said. And they talk about a version where you hit kappas.
Wait.
Do either of you know what a kappa is?
I don't know what a kappa is.
Okay.
I kind of have an idea, but I'd rather have you tell me so I don't look like an idiot.
Well, okay. The reason I know what a kappa is from playing Animal Crossing. So hopefully that makes you not feel stupid, Drew. I don't know if you've ever played Animal Crossing or how much you've played, but there's this little like balding turtle character. That is so actually this is another piece of like very interesting lore, is that a lot of the animals in Animal Crossing are based on mythical creatures in Japan.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
There is actually like a very dark underlying mythology to Animal Crossing that I'll rant about someday. But a kappa is a sort of, I don't want to say like demon, it's like a monster sort of a thing that exists in Japan. You could think of it also as like a cryptid, and it is kind of just like a turtle demon sort of thing. Sometimes they're thought of as like water gods, and I don't. They're kind of like the spirit of a place a little bit. Going back to the other topic I had, the genus loci.
Geniuses, yeah, the genus loci.
But yeah, so there was another one, I guess, that I don't know that it ever got really popular, but Japan did have a version that was specifically about kappas.
That's really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you asked, because I wouldn't have had a chance to bring that up either. But yeah, that is the history you never needed to know.
Well, thank you. I am glad that I know it now.
Yes, thank you. It's greatly I didn't realize how much history and how much, I don't know, intrigue there was about Whac-a-Mole.
Yeah. I feel like I've joined the ranks of like top 5 people in the world who care about Whac-a-Mole now. And that's like really not saying anything.
That's really interesting that they had one based around demons. I like that. And it kind of fits in a little bit with my topic, which is the history of jack-o'-lanterns. So shall we dive into that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
do it.
Okay. So you being American, both of you probably are not as obsessed with jack-o'-lanterns or carved pumpkins, but I think they are amazing, and I try to do one every year around Halloween, because in Australia growing up we never had any Halloween festivities, and it's only now just starting to become a little bit of a thing. And I love the spooky and the kooky, and I wanted it so bad. So
that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well, I think they're just awesome. And so I took a deep dive into the history of where jack-o'-lanterns come from, and then some other fun random facts about them. And so what I was kind of surprised to learn about is that they think they originated from like an Irish descent. And so in Ireland, it was really common in the 18th and the 19th century to carve turnips. And you've probably seen those terrifying pictures of these carved turnips. They are freaking idiots. Like, they are not jolly at all.
One of my friends keeps one as his icon on like every social media, and I just have to like make eye contact with it.
No, they're horrifying. They look like they possess the soul of a demon, which is kind of fitting, because they originate from there's a Gaelic kind of history where there was the idea of this roaming character. They called him Stringy Jack. So I'm going to give you the backstory of who Stringy Jack was and how he relates to a jack-o'-lantern. So there's this kind of like legend that Stringy Jack was just a bit of a cheeky bugger. He, would drink too much, smoke too much. He was known as basically the clown, the town clown, the town idiot. Because he was a bit of a drunkard.
Oh.
Poor guy.
That's different. Oh I was like, oh, the town clown. And then you're like, the town idiot.
I'm sorry. I guess like the town, just the cheeky bugger around town. So he was known for having, a silver tongue, could talk his way out of anything, could sell ice to an Eskimo type of character. And
oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the idea is that, he's just, living his life, walking around town, and one day he comes across this character who's laying in the middle of the street. And so the backstory is Satan had just been chilling around the town, as he does, and overheard the tale of Jack's, bad deeds and misdoings, and was like, okay, this guy needs to come with me down to hell. And so Jack comes...
I want him at my party.
Exactly. Come to my den. So Jack comes across this figure laying in the middle of the street in the cobblestones, and little does he know it's Satan. And so he tries to help Satan up, which I think is kind of nice. But Satan was like, aha, I've got you, I'm gonna bring you down to the underworld. You've done your misdeeds, you're cheeky, you've got to go. And so Jack, good old Jack with his silver tongue, he's like, okay, I guess I've got to go, but can I have one last beer before I go down? Just one last beer. And so Satan's like, yeah, fair enough, that's, of course, let's go to the pub. So they go to the pub, they have a beer, and when it comes time to pay, Jack bets Satan, he's like, I bet you can't turn into a silver dollar, like when they're asked to pay for their beer. And Satan, who was trying to prove Jack wrong, because he's like, this fucker, like he's a right shithead, I'm gonna prove that I am the all-knowing, all-powerful Satan. So he turns himself into a silver dollar, which, I think he should have seen this coming, but Jack grabs him, sticks him in his pocket, and puts him right next to a crucifix, and is like, aha, you can't get me now. So that's the tale of how Jack beat Satan. However, it doesn't end there. 10 years after this whole thing happened, so I'm guessing Jack just, kept the silver coin? I don't know. It doesn't really elaborate, but he got out of going to hell by having a beer and tricking the devil, basically. So 10 years later,
I'm taking notes. Yes.
Yes, how to trick the devil. So 10 years later, Jack is still being a cheeky bugger, and he's up to no good. And again, he comes across Satan, and he's like, I guess it's my time to go to hell for good. And so Jack was like, oh, one last favor, my buddy, before you take me down. One last favor. And Satan's like, oh, what is it this time? Like, go on. And Jack goes, oh, well, I just want an apple from that tree over there. Can you climb up and get me an apple? I want to taste the sweet fruit of the earth before I go. So Satan, the dumbass, climbs up the tree. Then Jack gets a heap of crucifixes, puts them around the base of the tree, and, traps Satan. You can tell this is a super duper religious-based story. But anyway, so he traps Satan up the tree with his crucifixes, and it's like, you can only come down if you promise me you'll never take me to hell. You'll never get me there. And so Satan is like, God damn it, I can't get past the crucifixes. I guess, you'll have to make a deal with the devil. Okay, let me down. I'll never take you to hell. Don't worry about it. Have a good life. Which seems all hunky-dory until Jack eventually dies from his drinking. Very explicitly stated in the story. I think they're trying to make a point about the drinking here. Yes. So eventually Jack dies from his drinking, and he's at the pearly gates, and they're like, oof, bud, your name is not on the list. You did not quite do enough good deeds. We're going to have to send you down to the fiery guy. And Jack's like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I can't get into heaven. Well, I'll go to hell then. So he goes to hell. And Satan's at the hell gates, and it's like, no, you made a deal with me. I'm never letting you in. Don't worry about it. You can't get in. Go back up to the pearly gates. So this poor guy is stuck between a rock and a hard place. He can't get into heaven. He hasn't been good enough. And he tricked his way out of hell. So he's got nowhere to exist for the rest of eternity. And so this is where that carved turnip, or the carved idea of like a root fruit, comes in, is that the devil sends him on his way with with basically a hollowed out a vegetable with like a candle in it, and it's like, there you go, that's your light, lead your path, good luck. And he spends all of eternity just rummaging through the middle between good and bad, which I guess if you're Catholic is purgatory. But yeah, so that is the story of Stringy Jack. And the lantern relates to this idea of like that middle ground, the middle between good and bad. And so some Irish or some Gaelic cultures would then have these pumpkins or these turnips out, like the root fruit, outside their house, carved as like a symbol to wear away bad deeds, to remind them that, you know, they're going to end up in the bad place or in purgatory. And that was...
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a warding off the evil. And then when you get to the US, it's kind of similar, the idea of warding off evil. However, it's more around that idea of these coming around the harvest time, so around Thanksgiving and around the time where all of the harvest is in. And they turned into more of a fun little thing where you light your path. You know, you can ward away evil, but you can have fun with it. And that's how we got the modern pumpkin carving today.
Wow.
Oh, I never knew that at all. I grew up right outside of Sleepy Hollow.
That's so
which I'm
cool.
sure you've heard of.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've been there quite a bit, and I never knew this story.
Well, the idea of like Sleepy Hollow is that the headless horseman ends up with like a jack-o'-lantern on his head, doesn't he?
Right, yes, that was the story I thought you were going to tell. I have never heard this story before, and I love it.
Oh, awesome. You know, I think the idea of the headless horseman having the jack-o'-lantern on his head is kind of similar to that idea of living in between hell and a good place. But I thought I would find just some fun random facts because I freaking love pumpkin carving. So I wanted to know the world records of the different types of pumpkin carving events. And so I have some records for you.
Okay, give us some records.
Okay.
Drew collects records.
I do collect records.
Right.
Let me put these down and I'll collect them
Here
too.
are some records for you. Okay, so the largest pumpkin sculpture ever, it should not surprise you, it comes out of the USA. And it is a carved scenery of a zombie apocalypse from 2 giant pumpkins. And the total weight was 800 kilograms. So almost a ton of pumpkin.
Jeez. Ton of pumpkin.
Yeah.
Wow. Imagine being a squirrel and finding that. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I could eat
That would
forever.
be the greatest day ever. And then if you're a squirrel, you'd probably be really happy to find the longest line of carved pumpkins, so like a continuous line of pumpkins, which is from the UK at 4,164 pumpkins in a line, which is a lot of pumpkins.
It's a lot of pumpkins.
It is. We also have a record for the most pumpkins carved in 1 hour, and that is 109 pumpkins from someone called Trevor Hunt from America. And then,
Thank you, Trevor.
This is probably my favorite one, the fastest time to carve a pumpkin. So how fast can you carve these bad boys? And this record is...
Yeah, wait. What does carve actually mean?
I'm not sure. On Guinness World Records, they don't have
could I stab a pumpkin with a pen and it's like carved?
Oh, I found some requirements. So it needs to be hollowed out, have a complete face, including eyes, nose, mouth, and ears.
I can stab all of this with a pen.
Well, can you do it in 16.4 seconds?
What?
Yeah!
That's
Isn't that
fast.
epic?
Wow.
This guy was not fucking around. He wanted that world record.
Not messing around.
So this is probably my favorite and just like the most why. Like, why? Why does this exist? Which is the fastest time to carve 1 ton worth of pumpkins.
Why?
An entire ton worth of pumpkins. And the record is held for 3 hours and 33 minutes, which is just obscene.
That's a lot of carving. That's a lot of
It
carving.
is.
Do people like have ambitions to do this, or does it just happen, you think?
Oh, I feel like you've got to have ambition to do it. It's never happened to me. I've never carved a ton worth of pumpkins out of accident.
I feel like it's someone just wanting a world record. Like,
what can I do?
I'm pretty good at carving pumpkins.
Yeah.
Huh. I got a lot of pumpkins. Huh. Maybe just carve them up.
Exactly.
Wow.
Would just be...
There's also this is another one. It's not related to pumpkin carving, but it is a general pumpkin record, which I could not stop giggling when I first read it. And it's the fastest 100 meters traveled in a pumpkin. Oh, and all of these are held on water because it's easier to paddle your pumpkin than it is to like roll in a pumpkin.
Oh my god.
But yeah, that record is 2 minutes and 0.3 seconds to paddle 100 meters in a giant ass pumpkin.
In a pumpkin. That's a big pumpkin again.
Yeah, these are huge.
Jeez.
There's some great photos which we'll put on the Twitters and the Instagram.
That is freaking awesome.
Gram them pumpkins.
Ah, so good.
Gram them pumps.
Anyway, so I now have new ambitions to get a pumpkin carving world record one day.
Get a pumpkin carving world record.
I feel like that's all of that pent up like missing out on Halloween is now like I need a record. To have a pumpkin record.
Yeah, I'm now aggressively invested in Halloween. Hello?
Oh yeah, there you go. You're still here.
Hello. So shall we take...
Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. So shall we go from my ambition to dominate the pumpkin carving scene into AI dominating the world?
In the world? Yes, absolutely.
Lindsay is stoked for this to happen.
Well, I also think that was a brilliant transition.
That's a brilliant transition.
Thank you. Thank you.
This topic has a very, very personal touch to me because my grandfather was obsessed with it. He would talk about it every single time I went to see him. He was always talking about how computers were going to take over the world.
Oh.
And so it was just very funny to me that I ended up on this topic with him. He would always talk about this. So
was he scared of it,
yeah,
or was he excited about it?
Yes, he was terrified.
Oh,
he was,
sweet thing.
Yeah, he was very, very scared of robots taking over, and he would talk about it to.
Oh,
go on.
I was going to say, was he shitting his pants for Y2K?
Yeah, he absolutely was.
No, did he have like a doomsday bunker ready to go?
His basement was kind of doomsday, but
he sounds like a legend.
He definitely was. He was something.
He was something.
He was something else. Definitely something else. So it was just very funny to me that AI takeover is what I ended up on. So basically the idea of AI takeover is that at some point an artificial life form or, a robot will become the dominant life form on the planet, either using a computer program or robots will just, take control of the planet from the human species. It sounds a little ridiculous, but, that's kind of the idea.
They might do a better job at caring for the planet.
Yeah, probably. And some very important individuals have talked on this. Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk have both talked on this and have said that we need to take precaution in regards to super intelligent machines so that they remain under human control. But I, for one, accept our robot overlords.
You just want that out there for when they overtake.
Yeah, absolutely. When they overtake, I am the first one to accept.
I'll bow down.
Throw a robot in my brain. Yep, throw a robot in my brain, I'm happy. So let's dig a little further into the types of AI takeover that can happen. So one of the first ones, I am too, which is funny. This is actually pertains to this. So one of the first types of takeover that can happen is basically AI destroying the economy. And basically the idea is that advances in technology will cause long-term unemployment among humans. And the traditional consensus among economists is that advances in technology will not cause such problems. But, with greater advances in robotics and artificial intelligence, who knows? Human labor may become very obsolete.
Well, I mean...
And, with the obsolete...
What is economy anyway? Like, it is kind of all this, construction of our own doing, the idea that the dollar has a value.
It really is. And I think that's kind of having human labor at the center of that. Once we have, once the human labor becomes obsolete, what are we going to do? There's so many people who are going to be out of jobs and what are we going to do from there? So it's a kind of takeover in that, it destroys human society as we know it, because we'd have to adapt completely to a new type of society where robots are the center of work, and this of course includes AI driving and AI production, because with driving there's tons of dangers of humans becoming jobless even now, where you have all these autonomous cars driving, and so all the driving related jobs are going to be lost due to the autonomous vehicles replacing them. So there's a very real chance that humans become obsolete when it comes to working, that we may have to completely change our society to adapt to this. And even jobs that are skilled labor, such as legal research and journalism, care work, and entertainment, which were assumed to require empathy, which I love that line.
I love that.
Assumed to require empathy, have begun to be performed by robots. And, excuse me. And so it's just we're kind of teetering on a little bit of an edge where as soon as robots start really taking over everything, we're going to have to drastically change how we work. And that's kind of a little bit of a scary robot takeover that could very well be on the pretty near future. So now on to the more interesting one, which is the eradication of the human race.
Just casually.
So scientists are confident that humans can produce artificial intelligence that is superhuman. And some scholars, such as Nick Bostrom, who's a philosopher at Oxford, think that superintelligent machines would not be motivated by the same emotional desires to collect power that drives humans into acting like assholes. But collecting power may be a means to an end when taking over the world would greatly increase the superintelligent machine's access to resources. So basically, he said this in an example of a paperclip maximizing machine is designed solely to create as many paperclips as possible, could end up taking over the world as a way to prevent humans from turning it off and as a means of preventing humans from using resources for other things aside from paperclips. So even the simplest machines with the simplest instructions could take it to an extreme that could lead to the end of mankind for more paperclips. So that was just kind of a small example of how even just the simplest machine could really, really destroy human race. So it's just very interesting how easy it is to create something that could do that.
Imagine.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing.
Imagine if that's the way we go out. Paperclips.
That's the way we
paper
deserve
clips,
to go
yeah.
out.
It really is.
For more paper clips. So now let's move on to fiction, because, you know, AI takeover has a huge presence in fiction. And fiction, of course, makes the human AI battle so much more glamorous than, you know, just paper clips. But, you know, the conflicts would have a lot more action, such as, you know, when Terminator or iRobot or 2001 Space Odyssey, where the act of taking over is based on the desire to depose humans. And so that kind of whole idea is found throughout fiction of, you know, this much more violent uprising. And researchers believe that true AI takeover will be a byproduct of an arbitrary goal, as I mentioned before, and not really this whole big uprising, but you know, fiction uses a much more anthropomorphic motive for robots and AI to take over humans, because it's a little bit more interesting than paper clips. So this theme, which is interesting to me, is as old as Karl Kepnick's RUR, which introduced the word robot into the general lexicon in 1921.
Really?
And
I thought it was like so much older.
I thought it was younger.
It's 1921. Yeah, the word robot comes from the Czech word robota, meaning laborer or serf.
Oh.
And the play itself was a protest against the rapid growth of technology, which featured manufactured robots with increasing capabilities, who eventually revolt against humans who created them. So it's, you know, this play kind of had an idea of robots kind of going against humans because they're, you know, being serfs or laborers and didn't want to fill that role anymore. And that was kind of the whole idea of it. It was like a rebellion against, you know, the ruling class kind of a thing. And so that was rather interesting.
Yeah.
And
he'd probably freak
sorry, I'm just getting a
out
call.
if he was alive today at the amount of robots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. That would be, seeing the amount of robots and how advanced they are, he'd probably be like, oh my God, what's going
happening?
on?
I was right.
So let's get on to the contributing factors that could create a takeover. So basically, a super intelligent robot or AI that is able to modify its own source code and thereby increase its own intelligence could lead to what's called recursive intelligent explosion, which basically means that as the robot gets better at you know, upgrading its own technology, it's able to become smarter and faster and faster. And so you end up with this huge explosion of intelligence where the robot is able to basically out-advance anything that humans could do. And so that kind of robot could, in theory, research nanotechnology or advanced biotechnology and create like these nanobots that end up poisoning humanity because it just is able to out-manipulate humans or outmaneuver humans in such an easy way because it's so intelligent. And the other possibility, or the other reason why AI could take over, is that it's far easier to create an unfriendly AI than it is to create a friendly AI, because basically you have to create a friendly AI, what you have to do is you have to make the AI not be able to change its goal structure. So basically that means that you couldn't have it how to explain this? You couldn't have it like during the self-improvement, it couldn't change its goals at all. It has to have the same goal, and the goal could not vary at all, because if you let it vary its goals, then it can start building and building and building until its goals don't align with human values anymore. And so you end up with the paperclip robot that's able to take over humanity because it's able to vary its goals, and you don't want that. And of course, you want the goals to align with human values. And the AI must not undergo what's called instrumental convergence, which is a theory that intelligent agents will pursue potentially unbounded instrumental goals, provided that their ultimate goal themselves are unlimited. So basically, as we said with the paperclip robot, if you had an unending goal, it can basically build up these smaller goals that end up going towards the bigger goal. That's not well explained.
Can you use an example?
The paperclip robot is a great example because what it does is its simple goal is to say create as many paperclips as possible in a given time. And so what it does is it says, all right, well, I see these humans that are using resources that could be used towards paperclips. Why don't I stop them from using them? And so it's able to create these smaller goals that end up like building towards its ultimate goal. Yeah. And so, it's able to have these goals that vary. And because it's able to vary these goals, it's able to, start on a bad path and continue on that bad path because that bad path is more productive. And so that's why it's kind of the unfriendly AI is easier to create because it doesn't have these limitations where it can, vary its goals. It can do basically whatever it wants because the unfriendly AI is able to just completely, it doesn't have to deal with human values anymore. It just, does what it does and ends up creating. Oh God, this is fucking awful. Sorry.
No, it's not.
Sorry. Okay. So the unfriendly AI does not have these limitations and therefore it's far easier to create and it's able to have all these unlimited goals that are able to, end up destroying humanity versus a friendly AI, which would have to be reined in by human values, but the unfriendly AI doesn't have any of those limitations. So what all this boils down to, and I quote Stephen Hawking on this, is that AI AI could offer incalculable benefits and risks, where technology outsmarting financial markets, out-inventing humans, or out-manipulating human leaders, and developing weapons we cannot understand basically could lead to the end of the world or the end of human race, not the end of the world because the world's fine. The human race is going to be the problem. And so it's just
Drew.
The way forward when it comes to AI is just what?
I have an example I want you to talk about when you're done.
Yes. Just go. I'm almost done right now, so go for it.
Soma.
Who? What?
Soma, the AI in Soma.
Oh, in Soma. Yeah, that actually makes sense. That the AI's main goal was to keep humans alive, and so it didn't really. In Soma, it's a video game for Sarah who may not know.
I haven't played it, but it sounds really cool.
And probably everybody else hasn't heard it because every time I bring it up, everyone's like, "What the fuck are you?"
Soma.
No, it's there.
So the point of the AI in Soma was to keep humans alive. And if that incorporated, machines, like giving them new lungs that are made out of machine, that was fine. It just said, I want to keep humans alive, and that's its sole goal. And by doing so, it was able to, it basically killed a lot of humans because it's a whole question of what it means to be human. But it basically killed the human form to support human life because it kind of saw that if the person was still breathing, if the person was still thinking, that was a human. And so it also put humans into a bunch of different robots. And it was it's a really interesting introspective way of looking at what is humanity. But
right. The robot would be like a building.
Yes.
And like humans would just be like melded into the walls as these still sentient, just like breathing lungs that cannot move.
That sounds like a horror show.
It was a very scary game. I did not like watching you play.
Lindsay still has nightmares.
I did not like it.
Yeah, it also brought up this whole idea of like what it means to be human because you kept on copying yourself and this is a tangent, but you kept on copying yourself. And the question was, if you copy yourself, do you like, which one's the real one? Which one, like the one that's stuck in the chair that you just copied from, or the one that's moving around now? Like, which one is the real one? And it was a very interesting, very introspective way of looking at what it is to be human. And so I don't know, I really liked that game, and it was fun.
That's even super meta, because you could even ask in a more removed way, which is the real you, the you that's playing the game, your consciousness that's carrying out actions in the game, or the you that is physically in the physical world playing the game.
Oh, that's so meta.
Where is you as a person right now?
Shit.
Yeah, where? Yeah, that's. I didn't even think about that, but it's. That's actually one of my favorite games, and I freaking love that game. I gotta play it now. You're making me want to play it again.
Send us a screenshot of you playing.
I will.
Be like, that's my lungs.
That's my lungs. I'll take a picture of all the humans.
Yes, please. I want to see the building human lung.
The
walls.
building. Yeah, I'll show you them. But yeah, so the whole. I mean, that AI is a great example of AI takeover, in that, it has a simple goal in mind, and that simple goal, it sort of extrapolates from there. And because you didn't, limit how it ends up, you didn't limit its goals, it's able to completely change how its goal structure goes, and it's able to, really build from there until it creates these horror shows of humans, because it's just following its main goal of to keep humans alive. And so even the paperclip robot's a great example. But it follows its own goal until it ends up, destroying humanity. But that's besides the point. So I have, as I said before, accept our robot overlords, but others may be a little less keen to that idea. So yeah, that's kind of the long and short of AI takeover.
It's what's so cool to me is that I think equal to the AI takeover is we have to first answer the question, what does it mean to be human? So if AI are going to dominate us or change humanity or overcome humanity, I think we first have to decide what humanity is that could be lost.
Yes.
What is fundamental to the human experience that could be dominated? And you kind of touched on that, the economy was part of that example. But it's so weird, because I would never say humanity or society to me is not the economy. So, some other people, especially if you go to a liberal arts school, might be like, oh, it's art, the creation of art. But we have AI generated art already.
Yeah. So is that human? Is the AI that creates art human?
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Well, I was thinking when you were chatting about the taking away the humanity, I was thinking about WALL-E, the Disney movie, where all the humans are on that spaceship, and all the spaceships all automated, so the humans just float around in their beds watching TV all day. Because they get fed, there's no work to do, there's nothing to do, they just exist, which I think sounds horrendous. Not having...
to use that's an AI takeover.
Yeah, well, I think, a couple of weeks of not doing anything feels really nice. But imagine, years of just, existing.
Nothing?
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me. I don't like it.
I share that. Yeah, I also don't like that.
Yeah. So as long as the robots give me and Lindsay a job, I think we'll be okay.
I hadn't even realized. Yeah, WALL-E is a great example of AI takeover, where it's humans don't have any other. I mean, they don't have a place anymore. It's just kind of they're there, and the AI supports them, but it's still, they're not in control. It's the AI that's in control. I didn't even think about that.
You know what this makes me think of? I don't remember if this was a shitpost or honest truth, but I saw this post somewhere that was like, trees have domesticated humans.
Oh, there's actually a whole philosophical thing about that. It's really well explained in the book Sapiens. And it's the idea that wheat specifically, or growing those type of, starches and maises, like, we didn't domesticate them, they domesticated us. That idea of having to live somewhere for a long period of time to look after your crops was not really conducive to the normal nomadic lifestyle of Homo sapiens and other homogeneous species. That idea of like we would move around based on what the weather was doing and based on like what was edible at the time. And then the idea of actually having this like agricultural revolution is not like theoretically was not as good for us, because yes, we could feed more people, but the nutritional value of this stuff was not as good as the wild hunting and the gathering that would have been done seasonally. And so it's like, well, you're keeping more humans alive, so that's good, but are you doing it at a better cost? And that idea of you are now beholden to your land or your place that you can't move from.
Right. So basically, this is my optimistic take. It's like, if you are okay with the agricultural revolution, then you are also fine with AI takeover, because you've already been taken over. Our independence was already an illusion because we are already owned by plants.
We're beholden to plants.
I like that. Put it on a t-shirt.
I like that. Put on beholden to plants.
A further piece that I had seen in support of this was that like we depend on trees to breathe, but trees keep us around so that we can be their fertilizer when we die. Like, trees eat us.
Yeah, theoretically, like back before we had cemeteries and cremation, and they would also rely on us to help spread seeds and things like that from eating their fruits.
Yep.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah. I want a tree to eat my body. I think that's nice.
Thanks for hanging out with us, you guys. As always, we would like to know why. But we had a lot of fun today, and we always want to hear where you've ended up on the internet, especially if it's anything like toast sandwiches or even the knowledge of Knuckles the Echidna. Echidna. Or how you pronounce other words like archipelago.
Archipelago.
Add us on Twitter at Go Ask Alice Pod. We love spending time with you, and we can't wait to hear from you again. And if you have suggestions about what questions of the week you'd like us to answer, or where you think that we should begin our Wikipedia journey, please feel free to comment and let us know. And Sarah, what is the name of our new Instagram?
You can follow us at Go Ask Alice Podcast on Instagram for all of the fun pictures of the random bits and bobs that we talk about, and I promise you will not be bored by the pictures or the captions.
Thank you, Sarah. And thanks you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.
And I was there too, and I was like, I'm a big boy too. I'm gonna go shop in this section. I'm big enough for these britches.